Finish off with 1,800, Gavin de Beker.
It's crazy. When I saw that number 1,800 even, I was like, holy fucking shit. This guy's done a lot of podcasts.
Leading authority on the prediction and management of violence. 3-time presidential appointee.
Definitely the Forrest Gump of security.
How he just fumbled into Elizabeth Taylor.
Fell into
Richard
all
Burton,
this fucking...
The alcoholic.
And, like, probably should have gotten fired 10 times, but because he was an alcoholic, like, just couldn't pull the trigger or forgot or...
Yeah, he read his diary and said, fire fucking Gavin.
Gotta fire this guy as soon as we get back to New York.
Did Kamar actually make that joke?
What joke? Yeah, at the beginning of the episode.
That made it in?
Yeah.
Did it? Maybe it was the first
know.
cut.
That's possible. He had the violent... I don't know if I'm laughing. A violent childhood where he goes, my mom shot my dad. It's like, oh, your dad was a bad dude. He's like, no, it's actually
stepdad.
My stepdad. My mom killed my stepdad. It's like, your stepdad was a bad guy. I said, no, actually, quite a nice guy. My mom
was a psycho. Yeah.
She died of a heroin overdose. So he had such shock at a young age. Nothing fazed him. And so he, I'm sure, is what many handlers in Hollywood are based off of. He, from a young age, was able to handle egos.
He's the Manchurian candidate without having to be Manchurianized.
We're not sure. Like, he's not a bodyguard. He's a consultant.
He's what Kevin Costner's Bodyguard was based on. Did you know that?
You know in Ozark?
You're just saying that.
No.
I said that.
What? It's true.
Okay.
No, it's not true.
No, of course it's not true.
Did you say that, Kamar?
No, I was implying that.
You know in Ozark, the ginger guy, the rich dude that they have to go see to open the casino?
Yeah.
That bald guy, his handler. That's what this guy is.
Totally.
Just someone who knows just has all the details.
But can handle egos.
Yeah, I got you.
And that's why he was so able to handle Joe in this podcast. He went to Beverly Hills High School, 90212. 10. And he told a funny story about he totally fucked up and didn't do the job. And Elizabeth Taylor went back to him and was like, I really like what you did there by giving us her space.
Yeah, this guy's just fallen into everything. Like
he thought he was going to get fired. No qualifications. Just a story old as time.
It's funny though, because it feels like, and I'm probably wrong, I bet these stories are still out there a dime a dozen. You just won't hear about them for a long time. But like, it just felt like so many stories in like the early, like the 20s, 30s, 40s, people just like walked into a Hollywood exec's office and was just like, I think I'm made for Hollywood. And they were like, I like your gusto. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the next thing you know, you're at the Oscars in 2 years. And I feel like that does still happen. Like I said, you just won't hear that story, I guess, for 20 years, but
I think there's something wrong about reading someone's diary when they're alive. Unless they give it to you and ask you to.
Yeah, this guy had a bunch of I read their diary stories. Like it felt like he was like, well, this is part of my job, reading their diaries, right?
And I forget who it was, but someone made a joke about Anna Frank, and everyone goes, whoa. It's like, whoa. Anne Frank, whatever. He's like, whoa. You guys are the ones who read her diary. I'm just making a joke. Like, where's the invasion of privacy?
It's like the modern pop singer.
Yeah, Anna Frank.
Cousin of Anne Frank.
He detailed how fame is unnatural. Like he described it as a uniform or something. Like you don't go through an actual transformation. That's what he's observed through years of dealing with famous people.
I feel like you do, though.
Famous people are weird.
Well, like he said, the Beatles are the only people who didn't experience the Beatles.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
But that's such a weird statement because no one experienced the Beatles more than the Beatles.
But from the other side, just like Elvis didn't know what it's like to have another person on the planet that he thought was a superstar.
Yeah, I understand.
Well, the Beatles would have. The Beatles were jealous of all sorts of bands. The Beach Boys, right? That was the whole thing with...
Or the other way around, I guess, but...
No, but they made a record and they were like, holy shit, they did that. Now we have to respond with Sgt. Pepper's...
Pet Shop Sounds? Was that the one?
Yeah. I think because we weren't around to actually feel how palpable the Beatle Mania was or whatever. But then Joe said, well, Jamie said something recently that we are the only ones who don't experience the Joe Rogan experience. It was a bit of a meta moment.
My whole point, though, was like, if you were to speak to someone who was like, I am the foremost expert on the Beatles, they would like roll through a laundry list of, well, I've seen this footage that no one's ever seen, and I've seen, you know what I mean? And if you ask the Beatles, they'd be like, well, we were just there for all that.
Yeah.
So
If they even remembered.
sure, but you could use that for anyone. Like, even the biggest Beatles fan might not remember every single, like, that's my point.
Well, none of us get to experience how we affect anybody else, right? Like the same statement you made about the Beatles, what was it?
But the Beatles were the only people who didn't experience Beatlemania.
Yeah, like you're the only person who won't experience Kamar.
Yeah, but I mean, if I was super famous, that makes more sense. But yeah.
No, but just in general, like, you know, we all
My roommates
experience
me
you.
on a regular basis. You guys experience me a bit. You know what it's like to be me.
I don't know what it's like to be you at all.
You're saying it's interesting, like it isn't the person says I'm going to kill this person. They do sort of more weird stuff, just in the
What he was saying is
realm
that,
of stalkers or whatnot.
yes, when people threaten violence, they almost never go through with it.
And so he's just on that tip of like this comes in and he comes in and calms people down.
Well, his point was, what was it? It was a lot of people that died from domestic abuse were afraid of terrorism.
Yes. And he actually, well, we'll get to this in a second. Then he talked about he had to pick up or learn about Pegasus,
Yeah.
which is just scary as hell now. At one point, it was you had to click on the link or at least open the message. Now, if they have your phone number, they have your phone. And the way he said, well, most people can't afford it.
Yeah, well, how does Jeff Bezos...
Nobody can afford it.
Well, the sheik can afford it.
No, I know. You have to be as rich as a country to be able to afford it.
But how are you Jeff Bezos rich and you don't have some sort of wildly encrypted cell phone?
It's this Israeli company. I'm sure you could email them and say, I want to buy Pegasus. And they say, okay, $40 million.
Oh, no, you can buy Pegasus.
But it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
You email them and say, I'd like to purchase Pegasus, and they're like, just open this link on your phone. We got you, buddy.
If you're asking to purchase Pegasus, you already can't purchase
No, it's
Pegasus.
already on your phone.
And it's interesting how he said it's like they are your phone now. That's how it works.
Yeah.
It's not so anything you do doesn't matter if it's Signal or this. They're in there.
Yeah, all those rights you believe you don't have them. You're a prisoner and you're a willing prisoner and you don't even know it.
What's crazy, though, is that you don't even have to open anything.
No, and I'm sure
Pegasus too, yeah.
Pegasus is up there and it's just, they don't even need your phone number. They're just like, point on one of the cell phones down there and
And if you have
it's
that,
done.
why don't you use it? Like
They do
it's
use
scary.
it.
But just for their own, like, see that cute girl walking there, but she's got nudes in her phone or something. Like,
Well, I don't think that's what like Mossad is worried about.
I'm sure when they're bored on weekends, they're using it.
I
for
mean,
that.
maybe
it's just
for
it's
kicks.
Just, it's
Friday
the
at
wrong
5, they're
time.
like,
It's the
all
wrong
right, guys,
technology.
All right,
it's
we're
porno
off.
time. Yeah.
And there's just a battle of hackers fighting back against it. Like,
Yeah, white
If
hat
you're in
hackers, yeah.
Mossad, you don't just go right to Pornhub. You go into somebody else's Pornhub.
Go into the
That's
actual,
just-
yeah, you have,
It's
you're
the
like,
only way you can get your kicks.
I have a cloud of this.
he dated fake news back to 1674. So
you
it
go.
wasn't Donald Trump.
But I mean, again, I think you could date fake news back way further than that. Some asshole in the town square just like, it's flooding.
Well, it was a person who repeats it would be the first.
I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
But he did mention that there is right now a recurring theme, a monolithic media. It's just strange that they all concur on stories. It shouldn't be that way. And he's been around. Like, it's funny how he's mentioned he worked for Reagan.
Yeah.
And everyone hated Reagan at that time. Or who's this Hollywood guy coming in? And now Reagan is like
Well, for the right, he's their poster
revered.
boy.
And he was too old for the job at the time and younger than these guys are now.
He was terrible.
He was terrible. The government tells you what should scare you and then tells you they're the only solution. He was sort of saying that's the story all the time.
It's more like the government tells you what to be afraid of, and then they scare you with just that thing.
But also say, if you want help out of this, we're the best shot you have. I mean, the COVID talk, pharma, advertising. We don't see that here.
No.
'Cause we're one of those countries where that isn't.
No,
The
but that's a
fact
weird
that
thing. We do see that here because we get American television.
get American ads,
So that's
yeah.
the weird thing is like.
But we can't buy those drugs.
I mean, I don't know about that.
They're different in Canada.
Okay, but the
yeah.
point is, you could still see an ad for one of those
Yeah,
drugs
yeah,
and
you
go into your
could,
doctor
yeah.
and be like,
and
"Is there
say,
a
why can't I get
Salaxel or whatever the fuck it is?" And he'll be like, "Well, we have this version of it." Yeah,
Well, I don't even know if they would because we're.
but that was the interesting thing when Joe said it. Is I was like, "Well, we actually do, to a degree, get like I see a ton of. If you watch Fox, you see a ton of fucking catheter ads.
Oh, it doesn't matter if we're right or left.
But you see
They
how
own the
like
media.
that. This is one of those things where it's inherently wrong. Like you explained to me the argument that the U.S. is the only one who has it right on letting pharma companies to advertise
New Zealand
on
as well.
television. It's
they're a capitalist country.
it's obviously wrong, though. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have that. The same way there shouldn't be private prisons, Matt. This is just an inherently wrong.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
telling
yeah,
you, they use the argument of capitalism.
The fact that they'll never change it because this is what, we agreed to. Like, that's a problem, man. That shouldn't be
It'd
the
have to be
case.
Pharma or Exxon Valdez or Saudi Arabia. That's what they have advertised for, whoever's the pockets. But he said it's crazy that people somehow, after all we've been through, still will have faith in pharma.
Pharma does do good things. He said
hold
it
on,
is
he said-
I was
like,
just going to say, he has faith in pharma.
He said you have pharma, but blind faith, almost like it shouldn't be crazy to question pharma.
no, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be crazy to question pharma.
After all,
And the fact that they want 50 years to give up that information, like they're.
Bananas.
It's a little funky, smells a little stinky.
It smells so stinky. It smells so stinky. It's that's really disconcerting, actually. The fact that was what they wanted to do.
Well, what's crazy is that the people in charge didn't immediately say, no, go fuck yourself. And now not only do you not have immunity, but we want you to open up everything.
Well,
we
it
want to see everything.
just goes to show you they are one in the same.
no, I
We've been
understand.
saying that the whole time, right? Your governments and big pharma are they're hand in hand. And especially in the States where it's all tied into advertising and shit. Like, it's so dirty and like contaminated.
Well, I want to know if they get subsidies, because I'm sure they do.
I'm sure they do.
from the government.
Well, listen,
Operation Warp Speed.
They
Most-
must get subsidies
most
here.
massive corporations get subsidies in the States, so I can't see why Big Pharma would be any different.
Like, we're no different. The only difference is our government makes deals with them without us. No, you
Well,
know
all
what
of
I'm
ours is
saying?
subsidized.
No, I know, but like our government still does deals with all these giant pharma companies to give you free drugs.
Yeah. Well, we have rules in place.
Like, they're still getting
Nothing's
paid.
free. No.
Yeah, but it's because they have insurance companies. Yeah, but that's the difference, Kamar. We have one less middleman up here. They have insurance companies up there that are making sure that the price of fucking everything is insane. Like Pharma Bro. What's his fucking name?
But then you have people like Mark Cuban has opened up his own. He does have all the drugs on it, but at a discount rate. There's
Mark Cuban has opened up a online pharmacy. Really? Where do they? So they what? Like import those drugs from?
oh, they all
I'm
have
sure
to
it's
be,
all generic drugs.
Yeah, exactly what he said.
Right? So if you're producing them en masse, you can just do it for a lot cheaper.
He said, in his experience, who's ever in charge rarely surrenders power. It's just not a thing that you do. Like you've got the momentum, you keep it. You know, we've had enough.
Who gives up
Something
power?
concerned.
Right? When you think about it, like even if you do decide that it's time for you to go, you give it to somebody in your
The
party
examples are rare.
to somebody related to you in the olden days, right? Like with kings.
Yeah.
You never give up power, ever, ever, ever. And you'd be crazy to, because the people you're giving up power to are the same people you've been oppressing or been in charge of. Not necessarily oppressing, but, right, there's always going to be a certain amount of resentment top to bottom.
The system has some issues.
Yeah, I mean, it begs the question, though, like if, and this has never happened, but like if a U.S. president came along and for 8 years had like a 90% approval rating, You know what I mean? Are you doing yourself a disservice at that point
there
by?
could be some sort of motion to extend.
Well, this is my point. Is like,
even though the rules say you
I
cannot.
realize that the odds of that happening are fucking zero. But I'm just saying, let's live in this utopian world for 2 seconds where someone comes along who appeases both sides, who fixes homelessness, unemployment. You know what I mean? Like they just across the gauntlet figure it all out. It's a shame that after 8 years, but I mean, it's
I think
it's in
I
place for a
disagree.
reason.
I think that's one of those things they got right. Like
No,
in
listen.
their stupidness, they got this.
I don't think it was stupid. I think it was smart because
No,
they know that no one's ever going to do what I just said.
Human nature is just that after a certain amount of years, power corrupts, and they probably
Yes,
just know
that's what
that
they
to be 8. 8 years, power corrupts.
Well, that's what bothers people. But what Trudeau just did a bit.
What was that?
Calling the election.
No, calling the election was one thing, but then winning the minority, and then partnering up with NDP, saying there would be an election sooner than 3 years from now. Mm-hmm. Probably. That's got enough time to.
Now, can a Canadian prime minister
that's how
stay
majority rules,
in
though.
power as long as they want?
Yes.
Forever.
Forever and ever. We could
Yes.
have the same prime minister for 100
Correct.
years.
But
Yes.
do you think he wants to, or does he want a springboard?
Again, though, Simon, the
A
idea.
springboard to what? Come our world dominator?
A UN position or something.
But Simon, we still have elections, so that person still has to be
Yeah,
popularly
yeah.
voted
No,
in.
for sure. But theoretically,
Like
if-
Stephen Harper was prime minister for what, 12 years?
11 and a half or something.
Yeah.
How about that?
His dad was prime minister, I think, for 20 years.
Trudeau?
Trudeau was prime minister, then wasn't, and then came back. Right? I'm pretty sure that's how it went. Yeah.
One of the things he talked about.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like the fucking naming both teams the Rough Riders. We just don't have enough politicians in Canada that we can't have a different prime minister
The
every time.
people
No, I
didn't
just
like
think
the
he
leader,
came back
wanted
and
him back.
was like, yeah.
He was popular.
Pshaw.
One of the
Can't
things,
wait till Trump gets reelected.
one of the things he had a special interest in COVID is that he got brought in by celebrities. Like, what the hell's actually going on here?
He got brought in by what? Sorry, who?
He got brought in by celebrities who the government's saying this, the news is saying this, but you know what's going on. He had to do all the research into COVID to figure stuff out, to come in and try to break down, because he assessed threats to people at risk, and people said, I want on the straight dope. And
And he said, unless you're over 80, you're fine.
the other thing he said, where they got in a fight, is he said it's interesting that there weren't tests till a year and a half in. And I was just thinking about that test I just took was so helpful. And Joe was like, well, what if all the people that got those tests early didn't do them correctly and got this fault? Like, that didn't wash with me. I think we all agreed those tests would have been great a year ago.
Unless they're totally useless. Unless they're picking up like the flu as corona.
But we're talking about the $40 antigen tests.
Sure.
We shove it right up. You got to mix in the tube. We just talked about that the other week.
Yeah. Those should have been available right from the start.
all
It would
agree
have
that.
changed this whole thing.
You don't think that a lot of people are irresponsible and could fuck it up and have a...
I think for the amount of people that are irresponsible and fuck it up, there were way more people who had no idea if they were sick or not. Weren't being malicious, just legitimately were a carrier that weren't showing symptoms.
I think he was correct in his assessment that the government took a monopoly over testing in the beginning to keep a narrative going.
A monopoly, or did
I
they
didn't
just
really-
not exist?
The only reason I didn't...
No, that changes everything.
Kamar-
That changes everything.
Right? Like,
I don't know how readily available they were. He sort of seemed to think these were out there, but they wanted it to be a controlled testing environment.
I feel like in a capitalist society, what company
Get
wouldn't
'em out there as
immediately
soon as
want to
po-
get out?
unless the government didn't let them.
I just don't buy that. I feel like it's more an issue of figuring out how to package it in a cost-effective way. Like, have you done the new tests that you get at Shoppers for free? Yeah, like I can't imagine that putting that all together, like the figuring out just the slightest amount.
Again, we're talking about
We're
the
just three
unknown,
dummies.
so that
I'm just saying we're three dummies who have never manufactured anything. I think figuring out a new product that tests antigens and getting it out in like a year and a half seems somewhat reasonable to me. Just as the layman, I'm not.
And this guy was ready for Joe's pushback because he's able to deal with
Yeah, sure.
egos and diffuse the situation.
I don't think it was Joe's ego. Joe was honestly asking. That was a legitimate question.
I think there was a time when Joe was for everyone to have tests. Like, why the rapid tests? I had tests right
but Joe,
away.
hold on. But Joe was asking the right question. If early on they were like, we don't want people just at home. Because again, a lot of people didn't even believe in COVID. So a lot of people would have said, I took a $40 test and I'm clean. I'm coming back to work.
Yeah. Joe could be right. Joe could be wrong. I thought he was like, I think it's wise that they only had limited control on who tested, and I disagree with that. I think those tests should have been out if they're available as soon as possible. If they're not, that's a whole different story. I don't have a pot to piss in.
I also think the test became readily available because they quickly realized they were like, this thing is nowhere near a pandemic. Like, it's not as bad as we thought it was. Because early on,
To anyone who died, it's as bad as they thought.
yeah, I get it, but I'm saying, Kamar, early on, if you think it's going to be a full-blown, like, bodies piling up in the streets pandemic, then you definitely want to make sure the testing is as accurate and done in a real medical facility as possible. And then once you realize that it's the flu, you let people do it at home twice a day.
Well, would you? Because why do you want people even out and about at that point? Wouldn't you be better off just having everybody at home?
We didn't like that.
What do you mean?
I mean, we weren't too happy about that as a society.
I mean,
We didn't
yeah.
take too well to that.
But again, we were all happy to do that when we thought it was going to, when we were having to clean our groceries and stuff.
But
Nobody was
You
complaining
could blame
about
the media
being
on
home.
that. There could have been a more balanced imparting of information rather than like they were just let's cover all the bases even if it's not.
No,
doing it.
I think at the beginning you have to err on the side of caution. I've said this a million times. Like, the government's reaction has to be to look out for its citizens, and to do that, if you don't know, if outside is gonna kill everybody, you have to keep your citizens safe.
But our fellow said that the news admitted that it took the scariest way to present COVID information.
Okay, but
on
Kamar,
purpose.
but this guy also used an opposite example earlier when he was talking about Japan. He was like, they didn't raise the thing because they didn't want to alarm people. But in this case, all they did was alarm people. So
Japan's a different culture. That they had different lockdowns.
I'm just saying, I'm with Simon in the sense that, like, if you actually thought, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt, that this thing might be a kill 10% of the population pandemic, shouldn't we err on the side of caution?
If it's unavoidable, I don't know.
I mean, listen,
we'll
you've
know
been
in a
herd
couple
immunity
years
from the
how
start.
much
So.
we fucked up, or how
Well, no,
much
but that
we
was the
did
whole
bad.
thing at the beginning. It was always, you have to look out for the old and the young. Like, these are the vulnerable people. That's why you did everything. You know what I mean? They erred on the side of
now we
caution.
know where we were
And
wrong.
now once they know, then they change course. That's not what we're arguing about. I'm talking about at the beginning. Like, when they were not giving us tests. That was the original argument, right? Like, they have to err on the side of caution there. And that would be, I guess, the only argument about those tests is that you're going to get so many. Like, look, if you don't shove that thing up far enough, you just don't get the reading you need. If a lot of people don't like that feeling, granted, it sucks. You know what I mean? So if you're like
But now we're at the point where we're accepting that it is people are good enough to do it. So I don't know what changed.
I think it was just
what
the availability.
changed.
That's all. I still stick by that.
That is such a thing. If the tests were withheld, it's one thing. If they're not, then it's just
Well, we
another
only
one.
really got the tests for Omicron, and I think that's because I think they saw that it wasn't very deadly, so let them do whatever they want now.
We
you know
can
what
think
I
all we want. We don't know. It's then
mean? Yes, agreed.
But I don't think he does either.
no. He
Again, he
this
was
guy's
just-
very even.
No, I get it. But Kamar, my point was, like, when this guy was speaking, again, he was just hypothesizing.
And remember, he doesn't know shit for shit.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't even go to college. He has a MASTERCLASS in risk assessment of accurate assessment of threat, which is free, which is very interesting.
because he's rich.
Well, that's his last line. That's his last line. But then he talks about how he has one course where women go and are able to just beat the shit of a guy in a pattern. It's like, well, that's like Joe.
That was crazy.
I don't think anyone takes one class of anything goes, you know what? Bring on all takers.
No, but that would be a problem. I totally see Joe's point, but that's not how those things work, you know? And to boot, any help is better than no help.
I think everyone should pay to get punched in the face in a good control situation, just so you know what that. And that's what he sort of like. It's just to put someone into that situation, experience with them more, and he had it. And no, people don't understand what takes. People don't understand the use of force. It's like no, they don't. But if they experience it, then they know a bit more of insight. And he ended up going at one point, going, well, it's a 6-week class. It's like okay, well, if it's 6 weeks, like. Maybe that's all right. And you're like, Joe, you change your mind. I thought he gave a master class in talking a celebrity who does agree with him down off a thing, because obviously any experience is good.
It's so funny the reading into stuff that you do versus like when I listen to this, I just didn't get that vibe. That I know you like bought into this guy completely because of his past and everything, but I just wasn't like, oh, look at this guy take Joe down, this celebrity. He's so even. Like I don't know.
I thought he handled.
Well,
it
at one point,
beautifully.
I don't even know when it happened, but he was like, and there's you who's admitted that they have never been to one of those classes, and me who's ran 17,000 hours of them. He did it so expertly.
Yes, because that's all he does is deal with
is rich stupid idiots. That's not what Joe is. No. I'm not saying that's what Joe is. I'm saying like Liza Minnelli's, and she has to convince these uber rich people to see things his way.
But one of the things I was thinking is someone who, because he said there's 2 types of predators. There's persuasion, which is something like 90% try to wheel and deal you or whatever, and then 2% attack.
I thought it was 90-10. It was 98-2.
That's what I wrote down, but
Jesus.
Numbers could be skewed. But it's still 100% of the 2% aren't these experienced physical killers. Do you know what I mean? Like Joe assumes anyone who attacks someone
is going to know jiu-jitsu.
Is experienced. So you're dealing with the unknown, but just knowing to fucking kick the knee. Know to try to kick the knee, whether you have it all leaned up and
that's what I was thinking when Joe was saying that. Like, look, I'm a terrible fighter, okay? But if like Kamara's in front of me and he wants to do harm to me and I just like jump onto his leg, even if I have terrible, like whatever, I might like snap his knee in half. You know what I mean? Like just by pure sheer luck.
You're aware of vulnerabilities.
First of all these self-defense classes, the first thing they teach you is run.
Yeah, he said that too.
I know, but I'm just saying is like, Joe, at the base level, like it's teaching people that in a high stress situation, if you can, the first thing you need to do is just get the fuck out of there.
Get out of there.
But if they are teaching women like you should drop onto your back, that seems crazy. How can you run away if you're on your back?
I think they're saying on your back, you're at the point where there is no escape. Like you're.
That was probably something Joe got from McDojo life and brought it into this, but
maybe
he was saying no. There must have been some truth to it because he said because women have stronger legs and that they can give a bigger up kick, which we've seen is useful. But I mean, you just flail and run for your life.
Just stay.
He did. I thought he changed Joe's mind. And he said, see how reasonable you are, Joe, and all these. He just was amazing.
See, what bothered me was this guy. Like, it felt like this guy was a Joe Rogan listener 101 because he was just.
He does his research.
All he was doing.
I don't think he'd ever listened to a Rogan episode. He did all his research before he went in to meet Rogan.
He has a huge company.
This was a master class on being on a podcast.
I need Cole's notes of the last 20 episodes of Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
I'll read them on the private jet. He talked about how he has a jet where they put someone on and just fucking
Kamar,
fill it with smoke. It's like, get out.
I couldn't agree with you more. It happened like this. He got on his private jet that morning.
Yeah.
His assistant passed him a dossier on Joe Rogan, and he spent the plane ride getting totally up to speed on his mark?
I don't think it's necessarily a mark. I mean, he was selling a book as well, but he offered the masterclass
for free because he's rich and he can do that.
That's the big line at the end.
Anyways, I think this guy was like a master manipulator.
He mentioned that his issue with mandates is that mandates lead to more mandates.
Yes.
And as we still have the federal mandates here, they're on the clock, right?
Yeah. Well, the vaccine and the mandates have gotten mixed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you still can't travel.
Anti-mandate and anti-vax are not even close to the same thing.
This is
They have to be separated, but they're not right now. It's and who's doing that misinformation?
Is it on purpose or is it?
This is just the perfect example of relinquishing a power. We say they never do it, and we're waiting for them to do it.
So what exactly are we waiting on, though?
To drop the railway and the flight vaccinations. I don't know what other better ones there are.
You still need a
mandates.
passport to get on a plane
Or a train. Yes.
To go to Belleville on a train, you have
Yeah.
to be vaccinated.
Okay.
Pretty ridiculous.
It's just their jurisdiction, and of course, there's probably the truckers over the border.
And
but America does the same thing.
What is the rationale to that when every province is now open for business? What's the rationale of having
it's power
in country flights and trains with a vax passport?
The weirdest
there just
hold
is
on.
no sense to it, right?
The weirdest flex is like I could draw, like, let's say I'm unvaxxed. I can drive out to BC right now. I can cough on everyone.
Yeah, or
But
to Toronto or
They just want to make
wherever.
it difficult for you to go and do that, which is a weird flex.
So just to keep
the
people from
unvaxxed
moving
individual
around.
doesn't pose any more danger than a vax individual who's coming out of a house full of COVID
Yeah, I
to
agree.
spread it or whatever, right? So it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It agreed. So
Also, I hate to be that guy in the room, and this is going to get us that sweet little blue bar.
Well,
but
we have that already.
35,000 people in 2 years.
Yeah. And 70% of them he referenced were in old age homes in Canada.
but again, that just means that we did a good job.
That's 70%, or we did a horrible job.
Well, no, according to like numbers of the same size in like
Florida,
let's say
yeah.
Florida, we did a really fucking bang up job.
Well, we got 90% vaccinated or something like that. So
Then they talked about it's more self-defense.
That's assuming that the vax was a good idea, right, Matt?
fine, then maybe it was the rail and airway lockdown. Like, I don't know, pick your fucking poison. I don't give a shit. I hate COVID. and
Don't
I'm done
say
fucking
poison.
talking about it.
He talk about guns to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And he was saying, if you have a gun and someone's at you at the foot of your bed, it's not going to really help you. If you hear someone knock downstairs, and Joe said it, she was like, there's a woman
That was
who thought her
crazy.
asthma shot herself in the head.
Well, it must have been in the mouth
Like, that
because it
never
was
happened.
her asthma
And
inhaler.
he was like, no, it actually did.
Come on.
Yeah.
It must have been right in the mouth.
I just think about, especially us with no gun culture at all with us, it's not a good thing to have a gun underneath your
No.
pillow.
I forgot to tell you guys, my sister's house got shot up in a drive-by
What?
like a month ago. Yeah.
Oh,
What?
Hey, that week was a month ago. That's too
Sorry,
late now.
my bad. Yeah.
In Ottawa.
On Albion, yeah.
Do you have photos of like the?
No.
Were they aiming for
their neighbor
house?
Jody was telling me their neighbors were like drug dealers, and I guess there was some sort of altercation the night before, and the cops were called. And then the next night, Jody woke up to gunshots, and I guess the
Jesus.
cops.
Targeted?
Yeah, at their neighbors. Yeah,
Oh, they were just. But no,
their house got hit as
was,
like a because no one can aim in a fucking drive-by
Yeah. Wow,
in Ottawa, huh? Crazy, I know.
it's a crazy city, man. We out here. Informed consent is all information about everything. Like you're talking about the 75-year ban or whatever. He just established what informed consent is
75-year ban, sorry?
on the test results or whatever.
Oh,
but-
the 50 years they were.
Or like we've said at the beginning, like we've got these models. If you saw these models, you'd be freaking out. Don't worry. Like we should all have seen those models. What these decisions. I've always said maybe it'd be too expensive, but they should have given us all the information. And we have 6 weeks to decide if we're going to go this road with these lockdowns or something. We all decide because it's unelected officials who are making the decisions, whereas an elected official makes a decision thinking about the votes connected to it.
Yeah. Okay.
It worked out well. We're all still here. But with Facebook and these companies are censoring information, like they're not providing the information for people to think they are making informed consent. Whether it be he talked about the laptop around election time, just like who are they to decide? Black people can't hear the N-word. People can't hear these things. there's certain companies, and I said it as big as the Earth a couple weeks ago, in that more people are on these platforms that make decisions of what the truth is than there were on the planet when the church had this power. And that's egregious. This is an egregious. We're not all playing with the same facts.
Sorry. Go back to the church thing for what were you saying?
Remember, I said the church was saying the planet is the center of the universe.
Okay.
And then I said the cover up of the Biden thing is as big as the church covering up the center of the universe. Like, that's just insane.
It is insane.
But it isn't if you look at the influence of truth was just the church back then. And say there was 1 billion people on the planet. But now we know there's more people on social media than believe in religion. Or at least Christianity. I think that was exactly.
Except that they had a bigger ability to actually like sway anybody to do
The church
anything.
did.
Of course,
But
because there were less people.
and less-
Of course, I'm not.
That was just where I
if
tried
you're just talking about.
to draw a weak analogy.
Well,
Just to
look, I'll go here with
put a
you.
pin in it.
I'll go here with you. If the Hunter Biden laptop is real and not Israel is true,
Yeah.
and it was kept from the people, that definitely influenced the election. Period. That did. People would have looked at Joe Biden differently if his son was accused of whatever the fuck. I don't even know what was
The
in
point
there.
was his son was accused. It was accused at the time, and they actually you couldn't share the story.
I'm saying
walked here,
if
walked there.
if CNN and all of those had reported on it and it had been put out there for the people to decide,
Trump
like
could be president.
Trump being peed on or whatever, you know what I mean? Russiagate or whatever. I don't know if he would have won, Kumar. I just know Biden wouldn't have won. So we would have they would have had to have gone in a different direction. They would have had to abandon Biden and push somebody else forward.
What are you talking about? It was 4 days before the election.
It was 4 days before the election.
the
How
New
do you
York
get
Post
a new
story was that it just got suppressed by everyone.
Well, the Hunter Biden laptop thing was like literally 5 days before the election.
And the guy who
Was it that close?
I don't know that, but it works for me.
It was that close?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the guy
Listen,
who turned it in his
let's say it
has
was a
ruined his
month.
life.
Let's say it was a month, Simon. Does that give you enough time to get another candidate? No.
No, it doesn't. But okay, fine, whatever. I'll take that part. I'll walk back on that. It still changes the election. People still won't vote for Biden at that point.
Simon, the closer to the election it is, the more likely it is to change the election. Like
Yeah,
if it was
fine.
3 days, if it was 3 days before the election, there's no way Biden gets elected.
No, but I mean, if it's earlier than that, it gives people time to like really digest what the fuck is going on. And I don't know what was in there. Do you actually know what was in there?
Apparently, there's a lot in there.
But
No,
I
he does
heard
not.
There's
know
a lot
what's
of. I've seen a lot of photos.
I love
One
that-
photo where they're questioning the age of the girl in
that's
it,
what I
and
heard.
the rest
yeah.
are just drug photos.
I love that at one point Joe was like, I'd love to have Hunter Biden on. And I wouldn't even want to talk to him
Dude.
about any of this stuff. And then in this one, he's like, I heard there could be child pornography on there. And I'm like, you wanted to have this guy on to talk about his art.
But
Dude,
people have had him on.
Who had him on?
Mark Maron, remember?
No, I don't listen to Mark Maron.
Well, Mark Maron had him on.
Okay.
And it was just a softball.
Well, you know.
Why is everyone taking advantage of you? But he believed the magic or whatever, or what a horrible character he is. That he
No,
believed
he
this.
actually must be part of that machine.
Ugh.
Because, like, legitimately, but to have that guy on and not ask, what do you owe Hunter Biden? I get it. You have President Obama on.
It's money. It's money. You're
You
forgetting.
know what I mean?
Simon, it's very simple. If you know that you can get 5 million ears to just throw softballs at a guy for an hour, you're going to fucking listen,
guess.
money talks. Like, Kamar, I love you.
He refused to go.
I love you, and I don't mean this like I would do the same. If tomorrow someone was like, I'll give you $5 million to start throwing softballs at left-wing people, you'd be like, I'll take it. Done.
Yes.
Yeah, so would I. Same thing. If they were like, we want you to be on Fox News, Matt. We want you to be a pundit on Fox News. You're going to have to throw softballs at right. Done. Give me the money.
But this is the problem. Joe and everyone on it thinks the bottom line of success is sincerity.
Sincerity.
Serenity.
The bottom line of success? Is that what you said?
He says you will almost always be successful in what you do if you're sincere.
Sincere, that's the word. And we see it
Sincerity
with
was-
Mr. Beast, see it everyone. If you got that position, could you pull it off sincerely? Would dictate your success. And if they give you the bag right off the bat, of course.
But we can see that you can do it the Nelk Boys way too, right? Like they're just as big as Mr. Beast. Maybe not just as big.
But I think they're sincere in being douchebags. And
Fair enough,
that's
sure.
what the thing is. Where there's guys like a David Dobrik, there's people that are split personalities.
What does that mean, though? Sincere at being douchebags.
He's saying they're upfront about who they are.
just
They're
there-
like, look,
there-
we're not trying to be anything other than this. We're the Nelk Boys.
Where David Dobrik was preaching being all high and mighty.
Oh,
and
we're just everyone's just having fun. It's all
we're not
good.
raping anyone. Everything's cool.
And there's a million examples of this with persona and whatever. And it's like this guy says, fame is a uniform, so you don't always know who the people are or what's going on with them. He shit on Sam Harris on the way out, eh?
Yeah.
So, fuck this guy. Like he knew all the things to say.
He said, "Our friend Sam Harris," and then proceeded to shovel dirt on top of his grave.
like a bear in the forest. And then, like Simon said 3 times, he said, check out the masterclass for free. I'm glad I'm rich enough to do it that way.
And I said to Maddie that I'm sure he thought back on that and remembered or figured he should have said, and I'm blessed enough to be able to
really
do
weird
that.
flex.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
He
It
may have left his
was-
mouth. I was.
Pretty shitty taste in your
He
mouth
just
at the
didn't
end
stick
of
the
it.
landing.
Yeah.
But
No.
otherwise, he was a masterclass in just dealing with someone.
You stop saying fucking masterclass.
Yeah,
Are
no,
you-
it really
are-
was.
Is this guy
It
It
paying
really
you?
was. Kamar, I couldn't agree with you more. We usually don't agree anymore, but I couldn't
listen to
agree
this
with you
on
more.
normal speed too, listeners, as I listen to all of them, and
I feel like
didn't read
Kamar's
anything
making
there.
side bags off this podcast.
a
where
masterclass.
people are hitting Kamar up like, "Hey, do you guys
Say
advertise?"
the
And Kamar's
word.
like, "Well, not really, but like if you want to go through me, I can drop in like an evergreen."
I could drop
Yeah. How many times do you want me to say
Instagram
masterclass?
post for
27
you.
times. Okay,
It's gonna
done.
go with me.
Fucking
And if you
guy.
can con Simon into saying it a bunch of times,
The more you get both of them to say masterclass, the more money we'll give you. Kamar, in closing, real quick, is Jordan Peterson in your post-show notes?
No,
Can you add him in there,
Yeah,
please?
yeah,
Thank you. So we're gonna rate it then. That's it.
he just said one other thing he said with anything that comes at you, 10 questions minimum, or at least like why, like just attack it. Just don't accept anything. Go 10 questions deep on it to form an opinion on it.
I
think you should just bury your head in the sand. Keep your shitty 9-to-5 job. Don't ask any questions. Just shut up.
I saw a great meme. It was like April Fool's Day is the only day where you actually look at social media
As
with
what it should be.
with
Filter,
like an eye that it may be lying. Otherwise, you just take everything at face value. But then, and
the
it's
other
so
way
true.
around.
I had to be like, okay, I'm gonna have to check this now because
Did you guys think I got married? Oh, you didn't
No,
see
I
that?
don't.
Obviously.
I don't follow you.
We call it eloping.
Yeah.
Who did you elope with?
He
I don't
face
know,
swapped himself.
Some,
yeah.
some stock photo.
He looks like Max. He looks like your brother in one of them.
Yeah, I thought that was so weird. He said, "You look like Simon's brother Max." I was like, "Oh, he's got another one."
Well,
I didn't know.
No, I did. I meant for anyone else
You could have
reading
said
it.
Max or his brother, but his brother Max was like, "Oh, introduce me to the family."
This is why I hate Kamar. It's times like
It's
this.
a love hate, though. It's a love hate. Yeah.
I give it 2.5.
Boom.
I know you're going 4 for you.
4.5.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
What?
Loved it. Loved it.
He
I
said
loved it.
4.5.
Simon,
He said everything I
he
said,
just said
articulated.
masterclass how many times?
No,
he
no,
had to give
I
it a
like the
4.5.
masterclass too. I
thought
feel
you were
like
going 5,
this
actually, now that I
guy
think
fucking
about
masterclassed you into giving him a 4.5.
Yep. Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
I give it a solid 3.5. No,
That's a
yeah,
5.
3.5.
That's a 5.
3.5.
I feel like Kamar sent this guy his credit card number.
No, I just got the
No, the
masterclass.
masterclass is free, buddy.
No, but Kamar was still. I'd like to pay you for this. Like, I
You
think-
deserve
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
I know you said you were rich, but
I'd like to
take a couple
contribute
of
to that,
bucks.
yeah.
And rest assured, he has way crazier stories.
Rest
What
assured
Joe-
on
Joe
that.
got it.
Yes, I'm sure he does for sure. Yeah.
Rest assured
Rest
on
assured.
that.
All right. Well, that's a show. If you made it this far, thank you so much. You're the real champion. Thank you so much to BetterHelp. Don't forget to check them out. It's betterhelp.com/JREE. We have a YouTube. If you want to watch the show, it's youtube.com/JREE podcast. We have some social medias. We have a Twitter and an Instagram. They're both at JREE Podcast. You can follow Kamar on Instagram.
At Kamar Bobar.
You can follow me on Instagram at Floydy, Floyd with 5 E's. There is a Reddit if you want to join in the conversation. It's r/JREE Podcast. And then the Patreon. It's patreon.com/JREE Podcast. If you want to support the show, you can do so for as little as $5 a month. For that $5, you'll get the post show. It's the show for the show we shoot the shit. And you will also get This Won't Age Well. We got to do one of those probably soon. That's it. Guys, do you have anything in closing? Either of you?
Thank you so much, Patreons. Everyone else, get on the Patreon.
Simon, anything in closing?
Keep your eyes open.
No, not yet.
Oh.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you have a great week. We hope you enjoy your weekend. And as usual,
Keep your eyes open.